Ain't nothing but a gangsta party.
Oh shit. You done fucked up now. You done put two of America's most wanted in the same motherfucking place at the same motherfucking
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Thomas Payne of Prison Promise OGs Tell the Redemption. Today I got my good friend with me, Rob White. And Rob, he got a really interesting story to tell as far as we know how we got along and what we did in life and how we even met, even as young kids. So I'm gonna let Rob introduce himself and so you guys get a better understanding who Rob is.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we've known each other quite some time now, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
We went to school together at Lebanon High School, and we went a different couple paths right after high school, and I ended up working for the city right out of, at 18, I went to work for the fire department, and one thing led to another, and somehow I ended up being a Lebanon police officer for, 30 years? 32 years I had with the city of Lebanon as a police officer, firefighter, paramedic.
Now I was gonna say you was involved with the FBI in that capacity also.
Yes, the latter part of my career, I started, the chief at that time saw that we needed computer forensics because everybody has a computer, cell phones, and all that stuff. So they sent me to school to learn computer forensics. Then the FBI somehow got a hold of the chief, and they said, "Hey, can we use Rob as a task force officer?" So I was deputized a U.S. Marshal, and then I went full time as a task force officer with them for 3 years. They have a 3-year assignment.
Okay. See, that's all interesting because we live two totally different lives, and here we sit today, trying to make change and trying to make a difference in our lives and other people's lives. So hopefully somebody can get some good knowledge out of what we're talking about. So, we can uplift some people and give them a better perspective of you and I both now.
Yep.
Yeah, so let me put you on the hot seat here. You had me on the hot seat a few times in your life, so now the tables has turned. All right, I'm going to look at from your perspective and describe, how would you describe the community of Lebanon as far as the police officers and the community?
Lebanon is a small town,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, and it's a community, just like you said, and earlier we were talking, it's all about community. I mean, I knew as a police officer, I knew you, I knew your family, and I knew your friends, and everybody knew me.
Right.
But we came about, and you just try and worked and do what was best for the community, trying to figure out some problems. Obviously it wasn't too excited about what you were doing,
Right.
and
I could tell.
it's,
You had me on the cruiser a couple times.
it's pretty interesting that we sat here and all of our times that I've chased you and busted your door down and
Yeah, we've been on some crazy occasions every now and then.
but and just like we were talking earlier, my son was asking me about you fighting me and stuff, and I said no. People respected each other. We respected one another,
Right.
and that's just how it was. I was trying to help, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure on the other.
We're gonna let the people out there know too. When he said he was chasing me, he never caught me. So we're gonna get
That
that
is
straight.
true.
We're gonna get that straight.
I
Right
have
now.
the only time I ever caught Tom was when we were executing a search warrant. I had to bust his door down and then corner him somewhere. Otherwise, well, Tom was an excellent athlete in school. I mean, Tom was top notched. He could have gone to any college, football, track. I mean, you had it going on.
Yeah, one small mistake can change a man's life forever.
Yeah.
You know?
But you know what? In it's coming back full circle. We hopefully that you can do some good and prevent other people, young people, from making that same mistake.
And that's just my mission. That's the whole purpose of this program. That's the whole purpose of me doing what I'm doing, trying to give back to the community that I helped destroy in a certain degree. I would like to just let everybody know that everybody can change. It might take some longer than others, but change can happen if you want it bad enough. And like my favorite saying is, change the way you think and it'll change your life. And that's one of my mottos right now.
Yep.
And then I'm going to hit you with this other question. It says two phrases that has been used today all the time: back the blue and defund the police. Now, how do you, as an ex-officer, how do you feel about that? What would you say about that?
Back the blue and defund the police.
Yeah.
That's a good question, but the fact of the matter is, you know, and we talk about defunding the police, and obviously I'm prejudiced because I was a law enforcement officer, but I see the frustration. I see that side of it, and I also see I'm going to back the blue until I'm, you know,
Right.
till I'm gone. You know, I've always, it's a brotherhood and sisterhood, and we always protect and try and help each other to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? We've got to change the way we think about all this violence. You know, with defunding the police, that ain't gonna work. Look at Washington and Oregon and Portland and stuff like that. You know, but pumping money into these agencies, that's not going to work either. You've got to look at the root problem of all this violence. About, you know, they need jobs. People need hope.
Right.
You know, people need something to look for. They need jobs. They need, you know, community. They need to be involved and feel like they make a difference.
Yeah, I feel like they've been a part of something.
Exactly. You know, and you just don't see that. You know, and we're not going to get that way with the current, you know, all these politicians and people and all these groups, and it's just not going to work until we look at how these big cities are run. My gosh, I mean, Cincinnati, Ohio, there's a shooting every day there.
Yeah.
You know what? You can take all the guns you want, but you're not going to stop that. You
Right.
got to stop the drugs and the social issues.
You know, I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, the neighborhoods that the kids are in the inner city. Because, you know, when you only see drug dealers, hustlers, pimps and players,
Yep.
prostitution, you only see this, you know, sooner or later that's what you gravitate to, and that's what you end up doing, because you're seeing them living the life with the nice cars and all the materialistic things. Because a lot of guys in the city, they don't know your name, but they'll know what kind of car you drive. You know what I mean? That's just a materialistic mindset that a lot of them have. But in my opinion, I would like to know, like, how do you feel that the community of Lebanon and the police department can close the gap?
You know what? It's all about, you know, and I say it, and it's like, it's all about community. Back during the Clinton administration, they had a program called community-oriented policing. Mm-hmm. And that's where our bicycles came from, you know, and some of the other things as too. And when you go into these neighborhoods, just like I'd come down, you know, in different neighborhoods and hang out.
Right.
I know people didn't like me standing there on the corner, you know.
It was bad for business. You was.
Yes, it was. But you know what? I'd stand there and we would talk, but you got to know people. People would come by, and there was a tactic. There was a method to your madness. I got to know the community and say, you know what? This ain't good for us. You've got to build those. It's all about relationships.
Yeah, and that's the key part, relationships. But the thing that's so bad here in this town, I'm gonna say bad because it is, because the police relations and the black community is non-existent, because, you know, they don't interact, you know, like you once did. Like you just said, you know, you'd come down and you would mingle, and, you know, you would talk to people and get to know people. If you don't if you don't know what's on a person's mind, or if you don't know a person, how can you deal with the issue or deal with the problem that the person have if you don't take time to get to know that person? And then I want to go to another question. How do you think someone changed their perspectives from the past?
What do you mean, like
you
the
had
police?
a perspective? Yeah, you had a perspective in the past when you was a police officer. Now, how did you change that to become, you know, who you are today? Is that?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. It ain't gonna be easy, man. You didn't
No,
get
I
it
know,
easy.
man. You wasn't kidding, was you? You're gonna throw me in the hot seat, man. I chased after you, made you sweat for a while. Now tables have turned.
Tables turned.
Perspective. I'd have to think about that one for a few minutes and come back to that. I mean, you know, in living here, working here, you know, I never lived outside the city.
Right.
You know, and I've always been a part of Lebanon.
Right.
It was just, you know, you just kind of was real. You know, I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure how else to answer that one.
See, because like the perspective, like I remember one time you and I was talking, and you had said something like it was like the police department has that attitude, us against them.
Yep.
Now that you know you're not an officer anymore, how do you think? How do you think about that? How do you? What do you think about that attitude?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of times that it's a perceived thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that they still have, you know, and I'm going to defend them for a little bit too. They have so many calls for service now. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I left, there were over 26,000 calls for service a year, with the same number of officers that when I started in 1984. Okay, so there's only 26 officers. I don't know what it is today.
Right.
But a lot of times, you know, you get I think being part of the hometown helps a lot. You know, I see the difference with officers that, you know, we have great officers, you know, and depending on the circumstances and how you meet them, you know what, and that's a perspective, you know, from you, from me. You know, I'm not sure how do you feel like the cops are now?
I to be honest, I think it's worse.
Do you?
Yeah, because in my opinion, how can you change the way a cop performs or does his job if you keep hiring from within? I think you need to get a different idea,
Right.
get different eyes on the situation, different perspectives. If you keep hiring from as I want to say, the good old boy club,
Right.
you're going to get good old boys activities.
Right.
And then nothing changes. It's like that revolving circle
Right.
that everybody keeps the same standard,
Well,
same attitude, the same mindset. When the world has changed, you got to change with the world. You can't stay stuck in an era that's no longer here. You know,
Right.
I don't think that your way of thinking has changed.
but the other thing too is now there's hardly any hometown boys in there.
Yeah.
From the chief down, I can think of maybe 3 or 4 officers. Maybe 2 or 3 officers are from Lebanon now. So the entire force is just about. I got to be careful, man. I don't know anybody anymore. You know,
Right.
these young kids, you know, they'd be all over me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you don't have that sense of community. I don't know. I mean, it's just very difficult to kind of wrap my head around without being a part of it.
Right.
But being outside of it, I do see your concerns. I do see it from the other side now.
Right.
You know, and when you're in there, it's hard to change that.
Right.
You know, there's a mentality and stuff, you know, and it's just it's different.
Yeah, but now that you see the other side of
Right.
it compared to what you used to see, you know,
Right.
what do you think that we could do to help bridge this now that you've seen both sides of the fence?
You know, going back to learning, to knowing, and respecting each other. It's all about respect.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is. And I've always said, just like you, I mean, yeah, you did what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't like it.
Right.
And I did my very best to stop you. But I still, you know, you're still my brother, you know, and,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to correct these issues and stuff, and things happen for a reason. But you turn around, look at you now. I said, man, Tom, you got a really high potential to help a lot of people.
Right.
You know, because I would take advice from you more than I would somebody with a bachelor's degree.
Right.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense because that's book knowledge I got on the job training.
Yeah. You know, and it wasn't too long ago that I had a problem and called you up and we went out to eat and talked and
Yeah.
you know, I mean it's
See, that's something that a lot of people don't know. Even as being a police officer, you still have problems that, you know, everyday people have. You know, they think you guys are different. You know, they think you guys are different, don't have the same problems that we do.
Right.
But sometimes we forget that you guys are human too.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we look at the badge, we look at the uniform, and a lot of times we automatically hate,
Right.
you know, because of who you are and
It's
your
exactly-
job. You
Yep.
know, just like, you know, some of you guys used to look at us and like really despise us because, you know,
Yep.
a lot of us was no good individuals. You know, and you know, we had good in us, but we didn't display the good because we had so much bad in us.
Right.
That has overrode everything.
You know, and yeah, there's always going to be bad police officers. There's always going to be bad doctors. Lord, there's bad people. Period, in every profession. But you got to remember that there are millions and millions of traffic stops a day, and nothing goes bad.
Right.
I mean, you know, and I don't, you know, police brutality. There's no room for bad cops. Period.
Right.
You know, and as a task force officer with the FBI, we pop police officers, judges, you know, firemen, doctors, you know, for different various things, from drug dealing to, you know, child exploitation and you know, and all everything in between. You gotta weed out them bad people, but I can't categorize you, you know,
Right.
into don't lump you into all these other guys that are still slinging out there and stuff, right?
Right, and that's
You
how
know?
it goes.
And that's how it goes, you
We
know.
all get lumped in the one shell where it is not fair, and then we also do the same thing to you guys because, like, you guys always used to tell us, well, you fit the description. Nowadays, we can throw that back at you
Right.
because nowadays, hey, you fit the description. How we know you're a good one or a bad one?
Yeah.
We're supposed to just take a chance.
Yep.
You know,
Just
and-
like us.
Exactly.
You
You know,
know?
it's a two-way street.
Yep.
It's a two-way street, but respect has a lot to do with it.
It has everything
Yeah.
to do with it. You know, but then you look at some of the incidents with the cops. I mean, they're shooting at them. I mean, if somebody was shooting at you, you're going to shoot back.
Right.
You know, and vice versa. And like I said before, I hope that I always try to not be jaded against people, what they do.
Right.
You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm talking about, I mean, people, after all these years, you know, being a police officer, firefighter, paramedic, I've seen the worst of the worst in people. But 99% of people are really good.
Hey everybody, it's Thomas Payne, Prison Promise, OG Tells Redemption. You know, we're going to finish the interview with Rob White next week, so stay tuned and stay informed. Prison Promise is a podcast by Thomas Payne and produced by Dan Lyons. If you want to get a hold of Prison Promise for any situation, you need our help, or you want to just talk to us, hit us up at prison2promise1981@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Prison to Promise and OG's Tales of Redemption, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify. Peace out, y'all.